Welcome to the Battle Isle Map Editor. This tutorial explains how to create a new map for Battle Isle 2. First, click on New Map. In this dialog, define the map dimensions by selecting a width and height from the drop-downs. Then select the default terrain for your map. The editor will fill the entire map area with this terrain. Now you are ready to design your map. Click on the first tab to select a terrain brush. Select a water tile. Now move the mouse cursor over the map and press and hold the Shift key while you move the mouse to select a map area. Press the F key to fill the area with the active brush. Press the Escape key to hide the selection. Now press the I key to set the brush to the tile under the mouse cursor. Hold the left mouse button to draw on the map. While drawing, the editor automatically smooths coasts, forest, jungle, roads, rails and some other tiles. Now click on the second tab, which contains brushes for overlays. Overlays such as forests, hills, and mountains can be placed on top of the terrain. Select the grain field tile. Draw a small grain field and a larger one next to it. To copy parts of the map, hold the Shift key to select the map area which you want to copy. Press Ctrl+C to copy the selected map area to the clipboard. Then move the mouse to the map location where you want to paste the copied area. Press Ctrl+V and the copied area is pasted at the mouse position with the mouse cursor defining the upper left corner of the target area. Now select a mountain from the overlay palette. Click on the map to add a mountain. The map editor will automatically create the whole mountain even if it occupies multiple tiles. The third tab contains brushes for all kind of buildings that units can enter, so-called shops. Select the headquarter brush and place a headquarter on the map. Then select a factory and place it on the map. The fourth tab contains brushes for roads, rails, paths and trenches. Select the road brush. Then draw a road which connects the headquarter with the factory. To remove parts of the road or in general to remove any overlays or units, move the mouse cursor over it and press the Delete key. Now go to the fifth tab, which contains brushes for units. Select the Aldinium crystal brush and place some crystals on the map. Now select the blue samurai brush and give a samurai to the blue player. Repeat this for the red and green player. Now it is time to add some details to the map. Switch back to the first tab and select some darker terrain. Use the mouse wheel to zoom into the map. Place some dark terrain around the lake. Then repeat this with swamp terrain. Switch to the Overlay tab and select the Forest brush. Draw a large forest. Select the Small Forest brush and add some single trees. Have a look at the brushes with a blue or yellow A over them. These are brushes for animated overlays. Select the smoking vent and place some around the factory. Now open the headquarter by clicking on it with the right mouse button. Make sure the mouse cursor is over the entrance of the building, which is usually highlighted with a lamp in the shop owner's player color. Click on the shop's name to rename it. Enter a new name for the shop. Then open the owner drop-down and assign the headquarter to the blue player, which is player 1. The lamp on the shop's entrance switches to blue. define the starting energy for this shop. Since the shop is owned by the blue player, this is also the amount of energy available to the blue player when the game starts. Now define the starting material for this shop. The two fields below define how much energy and material the shop produces at the beginning of each turn. Each shop can contain up to 16 units. As you have noticed, the unit tab was automatically selected when opening the shop. So pick a ranger unit brush and place 2 rangers in the shop. Since the shop is owned by the blue player, it does not matter which color the brush is, the unit will always have the owner's color. Now open the factory by right-clicking on its entrance. Rename it in Battle Isle 2. Factory names usually start with ATC, but this is not a must. Change the factory's owner to red, which is player 2. Define starting energy and material and the amount produced every turn. As for the headquarter, the starting energy of the factory will be the starting energy of the red player, since the factory is now owned by red. In case a player owns more than one building at the beginning of the game, the starting energy of all his buildings will be summed up. If a player does not own a building at the beginning of the game, he cannot have starting energy. In contrast to a headquarter, a factory can produce units. Which units are available for production is defined by the slots with the yellow border. Select the buggy unit brush and place a buggy in the first production slots. Repeat this with a snake unit and a demon unit. Now click the Properties button to open the map properties. The upper section shows the General Production Palette. The General Production Palette defines units that can be produced in all production shops. These units can be produced in addition to the units in the 4 yellow production slots. The upper row defines the General Production Palette for human players, while the lower row is for AI players. Left-click on a slot to cycle through all available units. Repeat this for the AI player. Now human and AI players can produce different units in the same factory. In most of the original maps from Blue Byte, the AI can produce almost all units in all shops, while the player can only produce a very small amount. Note that due to technical limitations of the original Battle Isle game, the Planum construction vehicle cannot be placed in a yellow production slot. If you want the player to be able to produce construction vehicles, you must add it to the General Production Palette. Now have a look at the next section. The terrain drop-down should be set to the most common terrain of your map. This value is used internally by Battle Isle 2, and your map may be incorrectly displayed if a wrong terrain is selected. The drop-down has no meaning for Battle Isle 2020. The starting weather defines the weather that is active when the game starts. Note that rain is only supported by grass terrain while snow is only supported by sand and jungle terrain. When selecting a not supported weather, it will either have no effect in the game or look ugly. Victory conditions define how many victory conditions the human player must fulfill to win the game. Select 2 victory conditions. Now define alliances. Check the green cell in Player 2's row to create an alliance for red and green. The next map drop-down defines which map is loaded if the human player wins the game. In this way you can link any number of maps together to create a campaign. The bonus map drop-down define a bonus or secret map which can be unlocked from this map by winning the map and meeting an extra condition. This feature is however only supported by Battle Isle 2020. Now enter a map description. The first edit field is for a small map description which is displayed as map title. The large edit field is for a more comprehensive description which usually describes the map setting. The bottom section is available for Battle Isle 2020 maps only. The edit fields in this section are used to define custom in-game messages, while Battle Isle 2 is limited to about 100 predefined messages from Blue Byte. Now click the Actions button. Actions can be in-game messages or map changes that affect alliances or parts of the map. You also define the victory and loss conditions by actions. Each action occurs at a predefined time, which is determined by a turn and movement number. The game starts with turn 0. So an action with turn 0 and movement 0 will trigger right at the beginning of the game, while an action with turn 0 and movement 1 will trigger after the human player moved his first unit. Add a mission briefing in-game message for the blue player. For this, set the player parameter to player 1 and select message from the action parameter drop-down. Open the first action parameter drop-down and select a message that starts with intro. These are the original mission briefings from Battle Isle 2. Finally, press the small green plus button to create the message. Next, create a weather forecast message. Change the turn number. Then select heavy rain from the action parameter drop-down and create the message. To actually change the weather, we will need another action. Increase the turn number again. Change action to weather. Select heavy rain from the action parameter drop-down and create the action. Note that the value of the player drop-down has no meaning for weather actions since the weather is a global effect. Next, we want to add a new definition layer. These so-called DF layers are a powerful feature which allows you to change your map during the game. For example, by adding or destroying bridges, flooding some parts of the map, or by giving new units to some players. DF layers are activated with actions. So set the turn number to the turn in which you want your DF layer to be activated. Then select DF layer from the action drop-down and select the DF number. Number 0 is the first DF layer, so the default value is fine here. To define what the DF layer actually does, press the 0 key. Note that the editor's title bar now reads DF layer 0, which means that you now draw on this DF layer instead of the map. Add some units for the blue player. When done, press the comma key to show the normal map again. Now we need victory and loss conditions. For this, press the Actions button again because internally victory and loss conditions are handled like actions. Reset the turn number to 0. Select victory from the action parameter drop-down. Select player defeated from action parameter drop-down. Since victory conditions only apply to human players, the player drop-down does not define the player who wins the game, but instead it defines which player must be defeated. So change the player to player 2. Then create the condition. Repeat this for player 4, which is the green player. Remember, we set the number of required victory conditions to 2. So the game is not won until both conditions are met, which means, the human player must defeat red and green. Now define when the game is lost. Loss conditions can be considered victory conditions for the AI players. Here the game is already lost as soon as one condition is met. Our first condition will be that the human player must not lose his headquarter. For this, change the action value to defeat. Set the first action parameter to shop occupied, and the second action parameter to HQ blue. Again, the player drop-down defines which player must occupy the shop. Create the condition. Repeat this for the red player by changing the player drop-down to player 2. The map editor now shows a small turned-down flag over the headquarter in the color of the player that must occupy this building. And the last loss condition will be that blue lost all his units. This is done in the same way as for the just created victory conditions, with the only exception that the player value is set to player 1. The map is ready to play now. Press the save button and then the F5 key to test it in Battle Isle 2. At the end of this tutorial, we want to have a closer look at the Battle Isle 2020 features. These features can be enabled by pressing the Options button. There, check Battle Isle 2020 features. This enables 2 new features. The first is custom in-game messages. Custom messages are added to your map in the same way as built-in messages. Press the Actions button and select Custom Message from the Action drop-down. Battle Isle 2020 supports up to 14 general-purpose messages, as well as a message that is shown as mission briefing and a message that is shown when the secret map has been unlocked. Select User 00 from the Action parameter drop-down. Then create the action. The actual message text is entered in the map properties. Press Properties and make sure the Custom Messages drop-down shows User 00. Below that drop-down there are 3 text fields. The first is for the German version of the message, the second for the English version, and the third for a language of your choice. The language code for this message can be any 3-letter code, but it must match the language selected in Battle Isle 2020. You must fill in at least 1 text field, but you can also provide your message in all 3 languages. The second feature is Secret Maps. To add a secret victory condition to your map, press Actions again. Set Turn to 0 and select Bonus Map from the Actions drop-down. Then select the additional victory condition from the Actions parameter drop-down. If the map is won by the normal victory conditions, Battle Isle 2020 checks if this special condition is also met. In case it is met too, the next map will be the secret map. Select plus time limit from the action parameter drop-down, and turn 10 from the second parameter drop-down. Then create the condition. To select the number of the secret map, press Properties. Open the bonus map drop-down and select the secret map. Now Battle Isle 2020 is instructed to load map 2 in case all red and green units have been defeated before turn 10. If they have been defeated on turn 10 or later, Battle Isle 2020 will instead load map 1. Thank you for watching this tutorial.